Hi, my name is Sarah Root, and this is my school community relations case study for EDL 856. There's a new role for the parents organization, and that's the case study. And here's what happened. I'm the principal of a school that has a new parent organization. The parents wanted to improve their own involvement, and so they formed a new parent organization separate from the National PTA in the springtime. They organized by electing officials, and they already held a meeting to decide, and they decided that they want to be more involved in the decision-making and policy-making processes at the school. They also decided that the traditional back-to-school night was not meeting their needs, and they didn't feel like they truly understood what was happening in the classrooms. So they want to hold a series of events over the course of a week, every evening, 1 to 2 different topic nights, as well as parent-teacher conferences the whole week, every night. They would like to address discipline, teacher performance, curriculum, and total school evaluation, and developed committees around those. And the committees would like to observe conditions in the school, collect data from students, parents, and teachers, and issue policy statements for the need for change. As the principal, I was very surprised by everything that had happened up to this point. The newly elected president is a lawyer, and he came with the representatives, the other elected officials, to my office, and I was going to just talk to them about what I want, the traditional back-to-school night, and they presented me with all this information. However, they did say they would like to work cooperatively and get my support, and I was but I was discouraged that they hadn't included me in the meetings or anything up to this point. So I'm not quite sure about the new organization. I am concerned because I don't think that they should necessarily be involved in the development of curriculum and instructional practices and policies. However, parents do play a very important role in the school program, and I'm in favor of parental involvement and participation in school affairs because it's best for the students. I would like to respond to the parents, though, in a way that meets their concerns, but in a way that we can all work together and not disrupt the educational program of the school. There are some legal issues, though, based on some of the things that they would like to do. So one of those being collecting data from students, parents, and teachers. That violates FERPA, which is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And that's where parents have the right to, they have some protections in regards to their child's records and their contact information. There's also the Student Privacy Act, which is in Kansas, here in Kansas, which is SB 367, and that prevents, it also keeps students' data secure, where it can be shared among the needs of the educational agency. So like teachers and administration, they can see student data, but outsiders cannot. The only person that could see data on a student is that student's parent or guardian. The school board has policies in place for that. They support both FERPA and Student Data Privacy Act. So there's that piece, as well as the fact that they're not a formal organization. So, and the other part is that the group would like the teachers to work every night for a week for parent-teacher conferences. Parent-teacher conferences are worked into the teacher negotiated contract, and that is a legally binding contract, and they cannot be asked or required to come and put in additional time to meet with parents without that being negotiated. Ethically, there are some very complex issues involved in this. First, and part of that is dealing with the American school system. So I'm not quite sure if they understand the American school system, but there is a sense of professional courtesy, which I think most people understand, that the teachers and administration at my school have received extensive training and they have knowledge about how best to address curriculum, discipline, and evaluations. And so when they've suggested that they would like to come in and have a say in that, is not trusting our professional opinions in that area. There's also the issue with the chain of command. I am the one ultimately held accountable for policy decisions, and they rest on my shoulders. And so there is a chain of command that they didn't ask my input or the input from other stakeholders, especially teachers. It is supposed to be a parent-teacher association. That's what it was. And now it's just a parent organization. So without the teachers being involved and without myself being involved, we've missed the chain of command for making decisions and policy decisions around the school. And the fact that this is also an unsanctioned ad hoc group, they have no legal rights. They're almost more like a watchdog group and do not hold any authority over making decisions because they've left the national PTA. And if I gave them autonomy within the school, my own ethics would be called into question and I could possibly lose my job. So to synthesize, what has happened is a new ad hoc parent organization was created to play a greater role in the decision and policy-making processes at the school without including the principal or other stakeholders. Here are the facts that we know. There is a new parent organization that includes just the parents at this point. The president is a lawyer, and there are elected officials. There's also myself, the principal, involved. However, we know that there's other people because there's other people in the district. So we know that there's students and teachers and the Board of Education because they mentioned it, but it's unknown their involvement. And we also don't know like gender, race, languages, what barriers are there. Those are the pieces we don't know. In terms of the place, facts about the place, we know there's a principal's office, so there must be a school. There's a school building of some kind. They also would like to come observe at the school, so we know that there's a school, but we don't know a whole lot else. We don't know the demographics. We don't know where it's located in terms of rural, suburban, urban. We do know that they've been meeting in a meeting location alternative to the school, just because the principal wasn't involved and the principal would be involved if they were meeting at the school. I would be aware. The facts of the program. I know that they have concerns around discipline, curriculum, total school evaluation, and teacher performance. They also want changes to the back to school night and policy making. What I don't know is what the students actually need that's not been addressed in this, or if it's a primary or secondary school. So after going through all the facts and all the pieces and putting them together, I do think we have some shared goals, which is where we really want to focus. Parents are wanting involvement and they want to collaborate with me, which is great. And I, the principal, want parental involvement and input from them in order to make decisions. But there are some needs. So there needs to be some two-way communication with all stakeholders. So not just parents meeting together, but parents and the principal and community members and teachers and students and everyone working together as stakeholders in the school community. We need a collaborative plan around these shared goals to cultivate those relationships since they haven't been included, since all those other stakeholders have not been included up to this point. And student development and needs remain the priority and focus. So here are some options and consequences moving forward. So the first thing I could do is dismiss the group. The consequence of that is there's not going to be any collaboration, and it's just kind of a final say no, and it really causes a rift between myself and my parents, which is a problem. The second option is to allow autonomy, allowing the group to do what they want within reason. Obviously, there were some legal issues where they could not cross that boundary. It doesn't matter. I'd have to put my foot down. But it would give a lot of control to the parent organization. The third option is to provide guidelines for involvement. So that's where I would step in and I would set some really strict parameters and say, you can do this, this, and this, and they wouldn't be able to make decisions. They could bring ideas to me, but I would still have the final say, and it wouldn't be very collaborative. But it would provide kind of these boundaries for that parent group to operate, but maybe not operate as well as they could. And the fourth option is to create a committee. And so this would be outside of the state, the site council, the school site council, and it would be a committee that would include all the stakeholders, all the different people that have concerns, but representatives from each stakeholder group, and develop a communication plan to move forward to address concerns of the families. So in order to make a decision, we have to evaluate our options here. So option number one, to dismiss them and just say no. The pros, I would still maintain control over decision making, and I'd maintain staff trust, because the teachers would be quite upset if I let parents come in and make some of those decisions that they should be included in making as professionals. The cons, there would be some angry parents and lack of support from the families, which would lead to probably a lack of support from the community and no collaboration. In terms, option two is autonomy, giving them control to make decisions. The pros is it avoids conflict. It avoids conflict with me. It would make the parents happy. The cons is I would lose all control of the school and distrust from stakeholders, especially teachers, which would not make a very safe and good environment for the school. Option three, which were to provide guidelines for the group. The pros are it still controls the group. It gives them direction. It gives a place to move forward and starts to open up those communication lines. The cons is pretty limited collaboration, because ultimately I'm still more of an authoritarian in that piece. And I do anticipate there would be some lack of support from the group, because they would want probably a little bit more say. The fourth option is to develop a committee. The pros for that is that it would include all the stakeholders and give some opportunities for some collaboration. It provides guidance for the organization moving forward on how to organize and how to work collaboratively, because maybe they don't know that. And also, it'd be an opportunity for me to get more ideas for school improvement and for us to kind of develop maybe some additional ideas to move forward to collaborate. Some cons would be that the parent organization may not get exactly what they want. While they wanted some of these pieces, they may find that some of those areas are not really an area of concern and to focus somewhere else. And also for myself, I might receive too much input to make quick decisions, and it might slow down the process of moving the school forward and providing for students. The best option, in my opinion, is to create a committee, and here's why. First, it provides it's a collaborative effort where all the stakeholders are involved. We need everyone involved to make a school run. Both internal and external publics have to be included, because that's the best way for students' needs to be met and to achieve. There's also through creating a committee, it also creates a systemic culture of communication where we can put systems in place and develop that communication over time, because there seems to be a lack of communication. It cultivates ownership over school improvement efforts. So now, like, when those decisions are being made, those people involved on that committee can feel like they're part of that and don't feel dismissed. And reason number 4, the hope is that everyone will become brand ambassadors. It appears that they do really love the school, and we all want what's best for students. There's no question there. And so being a brand ambassador, though, is that they're going out and they're talking about how great this school is, and the ripple effect of that is very positive for the community and the school. So here's my action plan to implement this committee. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that I'm cultivating those relationships. So I need to seek an invite to the parent meetings, open up that communication, but also discuss some boundaries, possibly with those officers, but in a way at this point that is kind of, it's a safe way, more with those legal issues. And that leads to number two. This would be closely similar timing. I would need to brief the superintendent and Board of Education of what's going on because it's an ad hoc group that is unsanctioned. They have no legal rights, but also because I could see them, though, stepping up and getting organization status, but that would require the superintendent and the Board of Education knowing what's going on. So those two things I'd have to set up first. Then create the committee. This would include external and public and internal publics. And part of that would be, part of the committee would make sure that we are establishing regular meetings, probably monthly, and maybe more at the beginning if we're sensing that that needs to happen, and create norms so that we're all on the same page and all moving towards the same goal and an agenda so that there isn't, so there is a focus for each meeting and time is not wasted. The next part would be then to also survey and collect data because apparently there's been a breakdown in understanding what's happening in my community. And so I would put forth a survey and collect some data to report back now within legal limits. But I can report back general data that would help us understand what concerns and needs need to be focused on for this committee. And and that survey would include diverse community members, partners, constituencies, students, teachers, parents, all of them. That collecting that data will be really important to understand those barriers and how to address those needs and focus on school improvement and student achievement. Then it's going to be communicate the vision. We're going to develop a vision, communicate it out, send it out to all stakeholders, open up two-way communication, and making sure that we're all on the same page moving forward. Last step is then to evaluate this committee. Now, it will need to be evaluated that first year for sure. Then it could change over time. So it could be that we find that there becomes more focused. And if it becomes more focused, like a focused need, I could see it becoming more of a task force. And kind of evolving over time where task forces are focused on like particular needs and there's an end time. Because at the end of the day, I still have a school site council that is also dealing with working on issues within the school. And so to hold both a committee and school site council may be a bit much if we figure out in the committee that there's something specific that they're really wanting to focus on. That could be a task force, and then let that parent organization kind of evolve and become its own entity and its own organization that's recognized, and continue on with that collaboration with me, yes, but maybe where I'm not holding its hand as much. And so that would be my action plan to focus on that school improvement and meet the needs of the students through involving the community and involving these parents that have these concerns. So to wrap up here, there is some warnings. There's a warning in terms of how to deal with parents. Because of how they approached me, I have to think about these crucial conversations that I'm going to have. And it does require tact. It does appear that they were possibly a little direct, a little harsh there at the beginning. And so there may need to be some restorative conversations of how do we rebuild this trust where I'm involved and they're involved and we can work together. And I think through that is like understanding that we need to develop a common ground. And I think the common ground is we all want what's best for students. And so having that as a base, also being facts-based, not based on my own emotions or their emotions or how we feel things should happen or being subjective. And so if we focus on the facts and being objective, I think it's a good place to be to move forward with our relationship. And then also to self-assess, and that includes for myself, is what I'm doing the correct step forward. and for them as well. Like that self-assessment is really important. Am I off base? So I think those are important pieces in that conversation moving forward and collaborating with that new parent organization. Plan B is option 3. Not ideal, but still another option, and that's to provide guidance. I could possibly include the president and maybe one other member on the school site council, but I would need to set boundaries for that group. And then also I would have to maintain the final say. It's not the best option. But I also could direct them to the Board of Education for official status. Like we could move towards that still in that Plan B, but it wouldn't be as inclusive. It wouldn't be as collaborative. It's not the best option. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Bye.